So, wow, folks, as I said, if you blinked today, you missed a huge event. The day began with Jeff Flake announcing that he was going to vote for Judge Kavanaugh, and that seemed to be it. And then, as I just reported, that scene in the elevator, let's take a look one more time at what happened. In the elevator. All right, well, that's the committee hearing. So, Lynn, all right, here we go.
On Monday, I stood in front of your office with Annie Barkan. I told the story of my sexual assault. I told it because I recognized in Dr. Ford's story that she's telling the truth. What you are doing is allowing someone who actually violated a woman to sit in the Supreme Court. This is not tolerable.
All right, so, Lynn.
You have children in your family. Think about them. I have 2 children. I cannot imagine that for the next 50 years, they will have to have someone in the Supreme Court who has been accused of violating a young girl. What are you doing, sir?
I was sexually assaulted and nobody believed me. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter.
All right, so just moments after that, Lynn, he walked into the hearing room and asked for a delay of a week for an FBI investigation. That, in fact, happened. Do you think, I mean, what was your impression when you saw this all playing out this morning?
Well, I think it probably was the best thing that could have happened at this point, because it will give a chance to eliminate the FBI didn't investigate. And I don't think the FBI is going to come up with anything more than they have already. But that argument will be stilled.
Well, Cheryl, is a week long enough to not only investigate this case, but some of the other allegations that are out there?
The fear is that there may be so much that it would take more than a week, but we'll take the week. We'll get the investigation. The FBI had, or the opinions all through this had been that the FBI would be able to conclude things rather quickly.
Wendy, is there any way to really kind of gauge how people are thinking about this, especially with events moving so quickly?
No, not really. There's been polling done, but there hasn't been any done since the hearings. I would want to say that I have heard some reporting. I had the same question: what could the FBI do in a week? And I've heard some reporting that FBI officials are saying they can investigate at least Ford's allegations in a week.
Okay, we are coming up. Just our conversation continues. But your comments, we're going to hear them, and we're going to see what our local polling has to say about it, so stay with us. Welcome back. We are talking about the latest developments in the Kavanaugh nomination, and joining us for more are Lynn Larson of the Sarasota Republican Party, Cheryl Wilson, the chair of the Manatee County Democratic Party, and Wendy Marsh, the political correspondent for the Tampa Bay Times. But first, so what are you thinking? Our digital producer, Chloe Convoy, is tracking those comments, and Chloe, what are our viewers thinking?
Hey, Alan, right now on Facebook, we have about 53% yes that agree with the Senate's decision to delay the hearing for another week pending an FBI investigation, and it's 47% no. But during the ABC 7 newscast tonight, we definitely want to encourage our viewers to keep participating in the poll. It will be open the duration of the newscast, but right now we will be keeping an eye on that and sharing viewers' comments coming up. But back to you, Alan.
So Wendy, we're seeing that it's pretty evenly split out there in terms of people who agree with what the Senate is doing in terms of taking this pause, and those who don't. What do you make of that?
Well, there has been, as I said, some polling that was done before the hearings, and it showed a fairly even split in terms of people believing Ford versus Kavanaugh. Ford a bit ahead in the number of people who believe her, but the plurality were unsure. Now, this was before the hearing. My guess is since the hearing, both have gone up a bit, maybe Ford a bit more. She was the unknown quantity and did a good job. So that's why I'd say she went up a bit. I am not seeing local candidates rushing to take a stand on this. I think they're hanging back. They're unsure how the populace feels. Rick Scott, of course, is an exception, has taken a stand in favor of confirming Kavanaugh.
And And Bill Nelson says he will vote against it.
No. I just have to say, though, there are 2 women running for office in Manatee County that have taken a very strong stand. Tracy Pratt and Liv Coleman. I haven't talked to them today about the delay, but I can't imagine that they don't applaud at least the step to take this investigation further.
But it's Rick Scott or Bill Nelson who are going to the U.S. Senate, and we know that after the Anita Hill hearings years ago, that really had an incredible impact on the number of women in government. But I'm wondering, Cheryl and Lynn, what you were thinking. We showed the elevator scene with Jeff Flake, then he walked into the hearing room. We have that video. I want your impression of what Senator Flake did and said once he got in there.
I have been speaking with a number of people on the other side. We've had conversations ongoing for a while with regard to making sure that we do due diligence here. And I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to, but not more than 1 week.
You know, Lynn, this comes after all the other Republican senators on the Judiciary Committee saying there was no need for this FBI investigation. He already underwent a background check.
I think he was trying to build consensus, and I think he was trying to reach out to the other side. And I believe that there were 2 other senators that were also not in that room that were questioning and wanted wanted a little bit more. The problem is nobody's a winner in this. Nobody. Dr. Ford will forever, her family has ruined. But also, just think of Judge Kavanaugh. His family is ruined. His reputation is ruined, no matter what he does. And this is over something that has not been substantiated. And she's a very sympathetic witness, and I agree with that.
And Cheryl, I'm going to get to you in 1 second, but we have to pay the bills here. Our conversation on The Week in Washington continues. Welcome back. We are talking about the latest developments in the Kavanaugh nomination, and joining us for more are Lynn Larson of the Sarasota Republican Party, Cheryl Wilson, the chair of the Manatee Democratic Party, and Wendy Marsh, political correspondent for the Tampa Bay Times. So, Cheryl, you were getting ready to jump on Lynn.
I was jumping in. I won't jump on Lynn.
but what was your point?
Well, my point is, number one, that elevator scene with Jeff Flake was difficult to watch. We're talking about numbers, and I'm very glad that you're polling to see how people are reacting. But this is more than a numbers discussion. This is very emotional, and we have seen this playing out locally. We have had women come into our headquarters in Bradenton, and they just want to talk and want to vent and want to share. And it's been very painful, just as painful as it was to watch that video with Senator Flake. But we watched Senator Flake 2 days ago give a very impassioned speech on the Senate floor where he said, let's slow down, let's look at this, let's approach this from a compassionate and a real standpoint. So to think that 1 week would be a delay is just mind-boggling to me.
Lynn, I'm wondering what your take in terms of, I've been reading too much social media, and I see, and I talked about this yesterday, the language that people are using, whether it's about Dr. Ford or Judge Kavanaugh, that it's not really it's disturbing. I mean, you could believe her or not believe her, believe him, not believe him, but some of the comments that, if this happened to her, why didn't she go to the police 30 years ago? Why didn't she tell her parents? We were young once. We know how these things work.
The good thing that is coming out of this is it's an opportunity for parents to sit down with their children
Absolutely.
And to tell them and to explain to them if something happens and you're afraid to tell me, to set them up with a counselor, a clergy, a special friend, so that there's somebody they can go to if they need to confide in someone, because this should have been investigated 36 years ago.
There's
if
another
there was
message,
something
though,
happened 36 years ago. There's
that
2 other messages.
Parents need to send
There's
is
2
to
more
their sons.
messages.
There are messages to young men in what's going on here too.
But
and
I don't think men are villains.
If there was a villain in this case, he happens to be male. But what the message is that you don't treat women this way, and number two, if you do treat women this way, it doesn't matter if 34 years pass.
Wendy, you've been a reporter for a long time now. Sexual assault is very serious, but we know when it comes to our children and our teenagers, they do a lot of things that we do not know about. And the incident that we're talking about, it was a sexual assault, but you can understand why this young woman, if it did happen, didn't go to her parents or the police.
It doesn't surprise me at all that a 15-year-old girl didn't go to the cops after an event like this. I have 2 daughters. It's the kind of thing that would be pretty devastating to talk about, to acknowledge that it happened. I think there are people who say, you know, boys will be boys. I think, though, that what Kavanaugh is accused of goes beyond what I think of as boys being boys.
Okay, we have to take a quick pause. We are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on the Week in Washington will continue after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the latest developments in the Kavanaugh nomination, and joining us for more are Lynn Larson of the Sarasota Republican Party, Cheryl Wilson, the chair of the Manatee Democratic Party, and Wendy Marsh, the political correspondent for the Tampa Bay Times. But first, what are you thinking? Our digital producer, Chloe Conboy, is tracking the comments on Facebook. Chloe, what are you seeing?
Hey, Alan. Earlier today, we actually posted this post on our Facebook page asking people if they agreed with the Senate's decision to delay the vote on the Kavanaugh nomination for 1 week pending an FBI investigation. In just an hour, we had over 80 comments, and there are 2 specific comments that I wanted to point out to you guys. One was by the name of Candy. Candy says, no, it's a complete stall tactic. The Democrats wanted to delay the process. No new information will be discovered. It won't change anything. And then Judy, on the other hand, says, I think this whole thing has been mishandled by both the GOP and the Democrats. But now that it's all on the table, yes, we need an FBI investigation. We should have done that first. And coming up on Alan's final thoughts, I will be revealing the final poll results. So stay tuned and be sure to vote and cast your final vote in the poll on our Facebook page. Alan, back to you.
All right, thanks, Chloe. So there we have it in one of those comments. What is the big picture here? Because let's take for a moment whether or not Dr. Ford was telling the truth and whether Judge Kavanaugh was telling the truth. The allegation was not made up by the Democrats. The question is whether they are taking advantage of it in order to derail this nomination into the next year, where there's an increasing chance that the Democrats may take over the Senate, and it will be payback time for not going through with the confirmation process for Merrick Garland, who was nominated by President Obama. Cheryl, is that what is going on?
I would say 2 words. I would say Neil Gorsuch. Neil Gorsuch was nominated. The Democrats were not pleased with that.
That did not tip the scales of the court.
No, but there was not a false accusation charge made against Neil Gorsuch to derail the nomination and to delay it. A very real concern has been expressed for this one. And then when we saw him yesterday, I think it even increased our concern about him. You saw a near hysterical nominee yesterday. You saw a nominee who was very flustered, who broke all protocol of those hearings, attacked or verbally attacked a senator who was being very gentle and kind with him due to his hysteria. So there are 2 things at play here. There's a seat on the U.S. Supreme Court, and then we have a very serious allegation that is societal in nature about the gentleman who has been nominated to that seat. So you got 2 big issues coming up.
If the Democrats were concerned about whether there was a concern on the judge, then they would have, Senator Feinstein would have turned over the information redacted when she received it. She would have contacted the FBI. She would have given information that did not include the woman's name. She would have also sat down with that woman and told her how serious this was and why she needed to cooperate now, so that this woman is not going out on the beach talking to people and doesn't call the Washington Post because nobody's listening to her.
You know, Wendy, when I run home on Friday nights and I watch Bill Maher on TV, and he, he's very opinionated, but he says, the Democrats have always played by the rules, and by the Republicans derailing the Merrick Garland nomination. The Republicans do what is needed to do to win, and that he says it's time for the Democrats to do the same. Is this what is playing out here?
Well, that's obviously part of it. There's no question that Republicans want this nomination confirmed before the November election because they think they might lose the Senate. Democrats would prefer not to confirm it before the November election because they think they might win the Senate. That's the obvious subtext of what's going on here. As to whether this is what Feinstein was trying to do, that's a little more questionable. I don't see how the FBI could have investigated a redacted report that didn't include the name of a victim. Feinstein says that she was trying very hard to do what everybody does, including journalists, which is protect the confidentiality
And there's been
of a victim.
2.5 weeks since all of the controversy about whether there would be an investigation had started. So there could have been an investigation 2.5 weeks ago, which was requested.
You know, President Trump has alternated between staying out of it, being very well spoken, and let's see what happens, to really going out on the limb and attacking some of the accusers here. This was his reaction today after the Senate did what it did.
I thought her testimony was very compelling, and she looks like a very fine woman to me. Very fine woman. And I thought that Brett's testimony, likewise, was really something that I haven't seen before. It was incredible. It was an incredible moment, I think, in the history of our country. But certainly she was a very credible witness. She was very good in many respects.
Wendy, are you surprised by the president's response?
Well, I think Trump seems to me, I'm trying to read his mind here, but he seems to me to have been a little ambivalent on this. After Ford's testimony yesterday, he makes a statement that she was a credible witness and a fine person. Then after Kavanaugh testifies, Trump solidly, people thought that Trump might be wavering, but then after Kavanaugh testifies, Trump solidly comes out in support of him, and now the statement that you just heard. I think he may be a bit ambivalent. I don't know about wavering, but I think he might be waiting to see which way the wind blows.
I think Trump took advice today probably for one of the first times in his presidency. He didn't brush off the advice that he was given, and the advice was, I think, to tone it down. The nominee looked like Trump did the day before at his out-of-control press conference, and I think both of them had been advised to calm down a bit.
Lynn, are you concerned about the impact this is going to be having on Republican turnout in November? You know, we often talk about the impact of Republican women crossing over in last spring's House 72 special election. It seems that that was 1,000,000 years ago, and there's a lot more on the table now.
I think the president, in looking at it and saying, okay, I'm going to let the Senate handle this, I think that should bring in support from Republican women, because that was what, a woman who was questioning needed to hear at that point.
And Cheryl, you have seen an incredible increase in turnout for Democratic events in Manatee.
We have seen an incredible turnout right into our office this week. We had 2 women come in today. One said, put me to work, even if it's just for 15 minutes. I have to get my mind off of what's going on. Another woman came in and shared with us that she was a victim and that she had been silent for many years, and she brought our entire workstation to a halt today. But even more interesting was something that happened yesterday. I personally registered 2 voters yesterday. I registered 2 white men to vote yesterday. One is a month younger than me. He's 67 years old, told me he had never voted in his life. Another one was 19 years old and said, my family is very conservative. I can't live with this.
And Wendy, we are in the middle of a really competitive congressional race here. The 16th Congressional District, Vern Buchanan has his hands full with David Shapiro. It is getting a lot of national attention, but some people still believe, Shapiro may have a shot, but that's a really hard thing, a hard shot here. Are Republicans nervous about all this story and everything going on?
Well, I think Buchanan is nervous because Shapiro is competitive. I would not say that Shapiro is winning or on the verge of winning, but I would say he's competitive. And you've got the same situation north of here in District 15 in the Dennis Ross seat, where you have a where Ross is retiring and you have a competitive race. Again, I haven't seen any of the candidates in these races or in a number of other local partisan races jumping forward to take a stand on this. I have a feeling that they see it as radioactive. They want to stay away from it.
I want to pick up on that point in just a moment, but we have to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment. Stay with us. Our guests join us right now for final thoughts, but first, so what are you thinking? Our digital producer, Chloe Conboy, is tracking the comments. Chloe?
Hey, Alan, right now our Facebook page, for the Facebook poll we had a total of 410 votes in just 1 hour. 57% of you voted that you agreed with the Senate's decision to delay the vote on the Kavanaugh nomination for 1 week pending an FBI investigation. And 43% of you voted you did not agree with the Senate's decision. Again, we wanted to thank everyone for participating in our Facebook poll, and be sure to tune in on Monday night for the Florida Senate race for District 23 with Sarasota Republican Joe Gruters and Sarasota Democrat Olivia Babis. We will be giving our Facebook viewers a behind-the-scenes look as we Facebook Live the entire debate. So be sure to tune in Monday at 7. Alan, back to you.
All right, Chloe, thanks, and we are looking forward to that. But Cheryl, let's continue our conversation. And why isn't David Shapiro and other Democrats who are running talking about this issue as loudly as they can right now?
We're going to see David Shapiro and the 2 legislative candidates that I mentioned tomorrow morning, where we are going to blanket Manatee County with knocking on doors. And I'll be in David's ear, and I'll say that's something you will want to engage these people that you're knocking on the door about.
And Lynn, same question to you. I mean, it's the Senate who votes on this, but why aren't we seeing Vern Buchanan stand up and saying, I am concerned about this, I want this FBI investigation, and taking a firm position?
I think Vern Buchanan is doing the right thing because he's letting the Senate handle what the Senate does. But I did want to say, I have 5 grandsons and 4 granddaughters, and this is the best time for mothers to talk to their sons and daughters, and mothers and fathers, because children need to understand, because we saw things from yearbooks written, taken out of context, and so children need to understand what they say and what they do can follow them for the rest of their lives. It does not matter that they have spent 26 years in exemplary public service. It does not matter that.
And Wendy, wrapping up this conversation in terms of what is the strategy in Washington that's going on here, what is the Democrats and the Republicans' real strategy in terms of either getting this nomination through or blocking it?
Well, as we've said, it's obvious the Republicans want this nomination confirmed, fearing that they might lose the Senate in November. But what if the nomination doesn't get confirmed by them, and what if the Democrats win? Will the Democrats ever, in the next 2 years, approve a Trump nominee, or will they do something like, only worse than what the Republicans did with Merrick Garland, leaving Antonin Scalia's seat vacant for 14 months because they wouldn't approve any nominee by Barack Obama? Will the Democrats turn around and do the same thing? What does this say about the functioning of our government?
You know, the Democratic Party opposed Kavanaugh before this issue came up, and a large part of that opposition was his position on women's issues and concern and fear about what that would mean for women.
So do Democrats,
this just exacerbated
would
that.
Democrats leave this seat vacant?
Depends upon who the president nominates. We were talking between the breaks here. Merrick Garland is still out there and would probably sail right through that Senate. So if the president really wants to get someone in there.
5 seconds, but you're shaking your head, Lynn.
There is no way that Democrats are going to let anybody that they think is a conservative be passed.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you all very much. We want to thank our guests, Lynn Larson of the Sarasota Republican Party, Cheryl Wilson, the chair of the Manatee County Democratic Party, and Wendy March, the political correspondent for the Tampa Bay Times, and Chloe Conboy, our digital producer here at ABC 7.